My son threw cold water on me. It was on an Easter Sunday at a table full of people with that autumn sun streaming through the living room window. All I had asked for was respect, just that. And Frederick took the glass full of ice-cold water and poured it over my head, very slowly, as if watering a dead plant. The water ran down my hair, my face, my new dress that I had bought especially for that lunch. It trickled down my spine. It soaked the chair, formed a puddle on the floor, and no one said a word. My daughter-in-law Rebecca lowered her eyes to her plate. My sister-in-law Cecily pretended she needed to fetch something from the kitchen. My brother Arthur cleared his throat and changed the subject. And Frederick. Frederick went back to eating his Sunday roast as if nothing had happened. I sat there dripping, feeling the cold water run down my back and shame rise in my chest. And it was at that exact moment, with my clothes clinging to my body and everyone's eyes averting mine, that I understood one thing. To my son, I was never a mother. I was always an ATM. Before I continue, please subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'll tell you how I got to that Easter Sunday, how a woman who worked her whole life, who raised a son alone, who never denied anyone anything, ended up sitting on a wet chair being treated like rubbish within her own family. My name is Joanna. I'm 62 years old. I'm retired from a major British bank where I worked for 35 years. My pension is good, very good in fact. I was always careful with money, always saved, always planned. Frederick is my only son, always has been, always will be, even after everything. His father and I separated when Frederick was just 3 years old. That man was absent even when present. He drank on weekends, didn't help around the house, and constantly complained about life. When he left, I cried all night. The next morning, I dried my tears and went to work. I raised Frederick alone. I provided private school English lessons, judo, swimming, video games, new trainers every year. I gave him everything I never had, everything a mother thinks she should give her son so he wouldn't miss his father. And he grew up. He grew up handsome, well-mannered, smart. He got into university to study business. I paid every tuition fee with pride, every book, every Friday night pint with his friends. I paid and smiled because I thought I was investing in his future. When Frederick graduated, I threw a party, ordered a 3-tiered cake, hired caterers, and invited the whole family. That day, I looked at him in his suit, holding his diploma, and thought, it was worth it. Everything was worth it. 2 years later, he brought Rebecca to meet me. Rebecca was pretty slim with long straight hair and perfectly manicured nails. The kind of girl you look at and think everything about her is perfectly put together. She worked as a beauty therapist but didn't have stability. She kept moving between salons. They dated for a year and decided to move in together. That's when everything started to change. Frederick came to talk to me one Saturday afternoon. He sat at my kitchen table where he had done his homework his whole life and said, "Mom, we need a bit of help to rent a flat. Could you be our guarantor?" I said yes. Of course I did. "And we were thinking maybe you could help with the fridge and the cooker too. Just to get us started, you know. We'll manage after that." I bought the fridge, the cooker, the microwave, a set of pans, a duvet towels. I filled that flat and they moved in. At first, Frederick still came to see me. He'd have Sunday lunch with me, call me during the week. Rebecca would come along quiet, polite, always on her phone. But little by little, their visits became rarer. He always had some commitment, something to sort out, somewhere to go, until one day he appeared again. "Mom, Rebecca wants to do a course. It's expensive, but it will help her grow professionally. Do you think you can help?" I helped. Then it was a motorbike, then car repairs, then a trip. There was always something. And I always said yes because I thought that's what mothers did. I thought love was giving, that being present meant opening my purse, that if I stopped helping, I would lose my son. Until the pandemic hit. Frederick lost his job and so did Rebecca. And suddenly they had nothing. No savings, no reserves, no plan B. He called me on a Sunday night. "Mom, we're in a difficult situation. We can't pay the rent. Can we stay at your house for a few months just until we get things sorted?" I said yes. They moved back into my house the following week. They arrived with suitcases, boxes, furniture. Rebecca even brought her little dog, a white poodle that barked all night long. I tidied the guest bedroom, made space in the wardrobe, made them feel at home, and told myself, it's temporary. They'll get back on their feet and leave soon. But they didn't. Months passed. The pandemic ended. Things went back to normal. Frederick found a new job. Rebecca went back to work, but they stayed in my house and I continued to pay the electricity, water, internet, and food bills. I continued doing laundry, cleaning the bathroom, cooking, and they continued living as if it were a hotel. They didn't thank me, didn't offer to help, didn't ask if I needed anything. Rebecca woke up late, spent all day on her phone, went out to get her nails done, came back and complained about the food. Frederick would come home from work, sit on the sofa, and watch TV until bedtime. I became invisible in my own home until one day I discovered something. It was by accident. I swear it was by accident. I was organizing the kitchen drawer when I saw a folded paper. It was a bank statement, and the name on the account was Frederick Davies and Joanna Davies, a joint account. My heart pounded. I opened the paper, but then I remembered. Yes, I had authorized that account 3 years ago. Frederick had convinced me it would be more practical for me to help him. Mom, this way, it's easier when you want to transfer something to me without bureaucracy. And I foolishly thought it made sense, but what I saw on the statement made no sense at all. Every month on the same day, a sum of money would come in the exact amount of my pension, and the next day it would all go out, every single penny. They were using my money, not a part of it, not occasional help, but all of it. My pension would land in my personal account, and Frederick, whom I had added as an authorized user at the time, would transfer everything to the joint account without telling me for 3 years. 3 years of paying for their lives. Her clothes, his outings, restaurants, trips, the new car he bought last year, while I lived on the bare minimum cutting expenses, thinking I was getting poor because life was expensive. I sat on the kitchen floor, held the paper, and cried. I cried with anger, sadness, shame, because I had been a fool, because I had let it happen, because I had never suspected anything. And it was then that I made a decision. I was going to confront him. I was going to demand answers. I was going to demand respect because I was his mother, because I deserved it. And that's exactly what I did. The Easter lunch had been my idea. I wanted to gather the family. I wanted everyone to see that despite everything, I was still doing well. I was still in control, still the matriarch. I invited my brother Arthur, my sister-in-law Cecily, my nephews and nieces. I made a delicious roast dinner, oven-baked rice stuffing salad. I bought Easter eggs for everyone. I set the table with an embroidered tablecloth, linen napkins, and flowers in the center. I wanted everything to be perfect. Frederick and Rebecca were in the living room when the guests arrived. He was in shorts and a t-shirt, she in short shorts made up on her phone. Lunch started well. Everyone praised the food. We chatted about pleasantries. My brother told a joke, my nephews and nieces laughed, but I was tense because I knew that before that day ended, I would speak, I would let everything out. And the opportunity arose. We were at dessert when Rebecca said loudly, "Oh, Joanna, did you see there's no sugar in the sugar bowl, Joanna?" She called me Joanna in front of everyone as if I were the maid. I took a deep breath. "Rebecca, dear, there's sugar in the kitchen, you can fetch it." She rolled her eyes. "Oh, I just warned you. I thought you'd want to sort it out." Frederick laughed. He said nothing, just laughed. And that's when I couldn't take it anymore. "Frederick," I said, looking directly at him, "we need to talk." He stopped laughing. He looked at me with that expression of someone who already knows they're about to be asked for something. "About what, Mum?" "About money." Silence descended on the table like a stone. "I found out about the joint account," I said. My voice was firm. "I discovered that you've been using my pension for 2 years without asking me, without telling me." Rebecca dropped her phone. My brother stopped chewing. Frederick turned red. "Mom, it's not like that." "Yes, it is. I saw the statement. I saw the transfers. I saw everything." He shifted in his chair. "You live in my house, eat my food, use my electricity, my water, my internet," I continued. "And you still think you have the right to use my money without telling me anything?" Frederick slammed his hand on the table. "You never complained because I didn't know. You're my mum. You have an obligation to help me." I felt that like a punch. "Obligation," I repeated. "You're 32, Frederick. You work. You have a wife. What obligation is that?" He stood up. "You always made a fuss about money. Always. I knew if I asked, you'd make a big deal out of it. So you preferred to steal "I didn't steal. That money is mine by right. You're my mum." Rebecca stood up too. "Joanna, stop this. You're making a scene in front of everyone." And that's when I looked at her. That stuck-up girl, that girl who had never respected me, who lived in my house as if she owned it, who called me by my first name as if I were her equal. "Rebecca," I said slowly, "you don't talk to me like that." She laughed. "Oh, really? And what are you going to do?" I looked at Frederick. "Are you going to let her talk to me like that?" He looked away, and it was at that moment I saw it. I saw everything. I saw that he wouldn't defend me, that he never would, that to him I wasn't a mother. I was an inconvenience, a bank, an annoying old woman who kept demanding respect. And then I said, "I want you both out of my house." The silence returned, but this time heavier. Frederick looked at me as if I had gone mad. "What? I want you both out today. You're joking." "I'm not." Rebecca crossed her arms. "We have nowhere to go." "That's not my problem." Frederick slammed his hand on the table again. "You can't do this. I can and I will." And that's when he did it. He picked up the glass of water in front of him, looked at me, and slowly poured it all over my head. The cold water fell. It fell on my hair, my face, my dress, my lap, and I stood there paralyzed, feeling the water run down, feeling the humiliation rise. Everyone at the table was in shock. No one moved. No one spoke. Frederick dropped the empty glass on the table and said, "There, now you have a reason to complain." And he walked out of the room. Rebecca followed him. I sat there, wet broken. My brother came to me, put his hand on my shoulder. "Joanna, I'm so sorry." I didn't answer. I couldn't, because at that moment, I didn't just feel shame, I felt hatred. And it was that hatred that gave me the strength to do what I did next. When everyone had left, I was left alone in the living room, still wet, still trembling, but not from cold, from rage. My brother Arthur had tried to convince me to sleep at his house. Cecily had been outraged, saying I didn't deserve that. My nephews and nieces left in silence, not knowing what to say, and I dismissed everyone. I thanked them. I said I was fine, that I would be fine, but I wasn't. I was destroyed. I sat on my living room sofa, the sofa I bought with my own money in my own home, which I paid for with years of work, and let the tears fall. I cried for everything, for the humiliation, for the betrayal, for the years I had wasted raising a son who didn't respect me. I cried for the woman I had been, the one who thought love was giving everything, who thought being a good mother meant never saying no. And I cried for the woman I had become, invisible, used, disposable. But in the midst of that crying, something changed. I don't know exactly when. Perhaps it was when I got up to get a towel and saw my reflection in the hallway mirror. Wet hair, smeared mascara dress clinging to my body. I looked like a pathetic old woman. And that's when I thought, enough. Enough crying, enough being a victim, enough accepting crumbs of respect in my own home. I had given that boy everything, everything. And what had I received in return? A glass of water in the face. So I decided I was going to get out of that situation, but not in the way they expected. There would be no arguments, no shouting, no drama. There would be silence and consequences. That night, Frederick and Rebecca didn't come home. They probably went to sleep at her mother's house or a friend's. It didn't matter. I took the opportunity. I went to their room, the guest bedroom in my house that had become their kingdom, and looked around, clothes scattered, makeup on the dresser, expensive trainers thrown on the floor, imported perfumes, a laptop, a tablet, all bought with my money. I felt the anger rise again, but this time it was accompanied by clarity. I went back to my room, turned on my computer, and started researching. I stayed up all night. I researched joint accounts, my rights, how to make international transfers, how to leave the country without a trace. And the more I read, the more the plan formed in my head. I had money, not much, because Frederick had siphoned off a good portion, but I still had a reserve, an old savings account I had never touched. Money my father had left me when he died was enough to start over. And I had something Frederick didn't know. I had full control of that joint account because I was the primary account holder. He was only an authorized user. And what can a primary account holder do? They can revoke authorizations, transfer balances, close accounts, empty everything, and leave the other person high and dry. I smiled to myself there in front of the computer at 3 a.m. For the first time in years, I felt powerful. Frederick returned the next day at lunchtime, walking through the door as if nothing had happened. Rebecca followed behind him wearing sunglasses, chewing gum. I was in the kitchen making coffee. He stopped at the doorway, looked at me, waited for me to say something, but I didn't. I continued stirring my coffee slowly, calmly. "Mom," he said with that voice of someone testing the waters, "we need to talk." I didn't respond. "Look, I know I overreacted yesterday, I'm sorry, but you also went too far." Silence. Rebecca huffed. "Oh, Joanna, stop the drama. We've already apologized." I turned off the hob, picked up my cup, and finally looked at them. "You have 1 week to get out of my house," I said, my voice firm, devoid of emotion. Frederick laughed. "Oh, come on, Mom. You're not going to kick us out." "I am. You're just being spiteful. Tomorrow you'll forget about it." I took a sip of coffee. 1 week, 7 days. After that, I'm changing the locks. Rebecca took off her sunglasses. "You can't do that. We live here. You live here on sufferance in my house, and that sufferance is over." Frederick took a step towards me. "You're doing this because I used the money from the account. Mom, that money was ours." "A joint account means both can use it." "It means both can use it when both agree," I corrected. "You never asked me, never told me. You just took for 3 years because you knew I'd complain and you were right." He ran a hand through his hair, nervous. "Look, I'll pay it back, okay? Little by little, but don't make a drama. We're family." I placed the cup in the sink. "Family respects each other, Frederick. And you threw water in my face in front of everyone. So no, we're no longer family. Now we're tenant and landlady. And I want my house back." Rebecca crossed her arms. "Oh, really? And if we don't leave?" I looked her straight in the eyes. "Then I'll call the police." The silence that fell was different, more tense, more real, because they realized I wasn't bluffing. Frederick looked at me as if seeing me for the first time. "You've changed," he said. "I'm tired," I replied, and went back to my room. In the following days, the house became a silent battlefield. Frederick and Rebecca barely spoke to me. I barely spoke to them. They left early, came back late, locked their bedroom door, made noise on purpose, but I didn't care because I was busy. Every day after they left, I went to the bank. First I went in person, spoke with the manager, a young, friendly man who had known me for years. "Mrs. Joanna, what exactly would you like to do?" "I want to remove my son as an authorized user from the joint account." He blinked, surprised. "Are you sure, ma'am?" "Absolutely. But any movement on the account will require both signatures." "I know. That's why I want to transfer the entire balance from the joint account to my personal account before removing him." The manager hesitated. "Mrs. Joanna, legally you can do that as you're the primary account holder, but this could cause a serious family problem." I smiled. "The family problem already exists. I'm just solving it." He sighed. "All right, I'll need you to sign some documents." And I signed them all. The next day, I transferred all the money from the joint account, which was practically all my pension anyway, to my personal account. Then I removed Frederick as an authorized user. Done. The joint account was emptied and inaccessible to him. And just like that, they would no longer have access to my money. Now it was their problem where they would live, but the best part of my plan was yet to come. I had always wanted to visit Portugal, always since I was a girl. My grandmother was Portuguese. She came to England in the 1950s, fleeing poverty. She told stories of Lisbon, of the River Tagus, of pastéis de nata, of the cobbled streets. I grew up listening to these stories, dreaming of that place, but I never went. I always had an excuse: work, lack of money. Frederick as a child, Frederick as a teenager, Frederick as an adult but needing help, always Frederick. And suddenly sitting there in front of the computer in the middle of the night, I thought, why not now I had Portuguese citizenship through my grandmother? I just never pursued it. I started researching the necessary documents, the process, the waiting time, and discovered it was easier than I thought. I already had the right. I just needed to formalize it. So that's what I did. I gathered birth certificates, retrieved old documents, and went to the Portuguese consulate in London. The attendant was very helpful. "What do you need the Portuguese passport for, ma'am? Travel?" "To live there," I said. She smiled. "How wonderful. You'll love it. Portugal is beautiful." "I know," I said. My grandmother always used to say so. 3 weeks later, I had the brand new blue passport in my hands with my photo. Joanna Davies, Portuguese citizen. I held that document and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. The week I had given Frederick and Rebecca to leave was coming to an end. They still hadn't moved. They thought I would back down. But on the 6th day, I made it very clear I wouldn't. I hired a locksmith. I arranged for him to come early the next morning to change all the locks and informed Frederick. He was in the living room watching TV when I entered. "Tomorrow at 8 a.m., a locksmith is coming here. If you're still in the house, you'll be locked out." He turned off the TV. "Are you serious?" "Completely." Rebecca appeared at the bedroom door. "Joanna, you've gone mad. We have nowhere to go." I shrugged. "That's no longer my problem." Frederick turned red. "You're my mum. You can't do this." "I can, and I will." Rebecca started to cry. "We don't have money to rent a place." "You both work," I said calmly. "Find a way." Frederick stood up. "I can't believe you're doing this." "Yes, you can. You just didn't think I'd have the courage," Rebecca shouted. "You're selfish. A real mother wouldn't do this." I looked at her, and for the first time I said everything I had always wanted to say. "Rebecca, you've never respected me. From the day you walked into this house. You call me by my first name, you don't help me with anything. You live on your phone while I clean, cook, and pay the bills. You're not my daughter-in-law. You're a freeloader. And I can't take it anymore." She went white. Frederick stood up. "Don't talk to her like that." "I'll talk however I want. In my house." He came towards me, stopping inches from my face. "You'll regret this." I didn't look away. I already regret raising a son who doesn't know what gratitude is. He raised his hand. For a second I thought he was going to hit me, but he didn't. He just stood there trembling with rage, his hand in the air, and I saw it in his eyes. He didn't love me. Perhaps he never had. I was just a tool, a means of bank. And at that moment, I no longer felt anger. I felt pity. Pity for him for being so empty, so small. I took a step back. "Tomorrow at 8, I repeated, and went to my room. I locked the door, sat on the bed, and called my brother. "Arthur, I need a favor." The next day at 7 a.m., Arthur arrived with his van. Frederick and Rebecca were still asleep. I opened their bedroom door. I turned on the light. "Get up, the van's here," Rebecca moaned. "What van?" "To take your things." Frederick sat up in bed, confused. "Mom, what time is it?" "Well, 7. The locksmith arrives in 1 hour. You have 60 minutes to leave." He ran a hand over his face. "You won't do this." "I already have." Arthur appeared at the door. "Morning. I've come to help load up." Frederick looked at me, then at my brother, then at Rebecca, and finally understood. I wasn't bluffing. They got up in silence. They started throwing clothes into suitcases. Arthur and I carried boxes, furniture, junk. In 50 minutes the room was empty. Frederick stood at the front door holding a suitcase. "I'll never forgive you for this," he said. I looked at him. "That's fine." "Nor will I." He got into the van. Rebecca got in behind him, crying. Arthur gave me a tight hug. "You did the right thing, sis." "I know." They left, and I stood there at the door of my house watching the van disappear around the corner. The locksmith arrived 15 minutes later, changed all the locks, handed me the new keys, and when he left, I locked the door, sat on the sofa, and breathed. For the first time in years, I truly breathed. My house was mine again, but I wasn't finished yet, because the next day I would do the last thing, the thing that would pull the rug out from under Frederick, literally. The following days were strange. The house was silent, empty mine. I walked through the rooms and felt a lightness I had forgotten existed. There were no dirty clothes scattered around, no loud TV noise, no one complaining about the food. It was just me. And for the first time in years, that didn't scare me. It calmed me. But I knew Frederick wouldn't let it go at that. I knew my son. I knew his pride, his anger, and I was right. 3 days after leaving the house, he appeared. It was midday on a Thursday. I was in the kitchen making lunch when I heard the doorbell. I went to the door, looked through the peephole. It was him alone without Rebecca. I opened the door but didn't unchain it. "What do you want, Frederick?" He looked terrible dark circles under his eyes, unshaven, crumpled clothes. "Mum, I need to talk to you." "Then talk from there." He looked at the chain. "You're not going to let me in, are you?" He sighed. "Look, I know I messed up. I know I overreacted, but we're family, Mum. We can sort this out." "There's nothing to sort out." "Yes, there is. I came to apologize." I crossed my arms. "Are you—" He ran a hand through his hair, nervous. I apologize for what I did, for throwing water on you, for using the money without telling you, for everything. I waited because I knew more was coming. But I'm in a difficult situation now, Mum. We're sleeping at Rebecca's mum's house on a sofa and she's charging us rent. I don't have any money. The account is empty." Ah, so that was it. He had found out. "I know the account is empty," I said calmly. He blinked. "You know I'm the one who took the money." His face changed. The expression of humility turned to rage. "You did what I transferred the entire balance from the joint account to my personal account and removed you as an authorized user." "You can't do that." "I can. I'm the primary account holder." "And I did." He punched the door. "That money was mine. It was mine." I corrected him. "It was my pension money that you used without asking me. You gave me permission to use that account for emergencies, not to fund your life. You're selfish." I took a step back. "Frederick, I worked for 35 years, raised you alone, paid for everything, and when you needed me, I took you in again, gave you a home, food, everything, and you humiliated me in front of my family. So no, I'm not selfish, I'm tired. Give me back the money," he demanded. "I won't, or I'll go to court." I smiled, a sad smile. "Go on, and explain to the judge how you used your mother's pension for 3 years without her authorization. Let's see what he'll say." Frederick went pale because he knew he didn't have a leg to stand on. "I hate you," he said slowly, and that hurt. It hurt more than I expected, but I didn't let it show. "That's fine," I said. "You'll get over it." And I closed the door. I stayed there on the other side, listening to him curse, bang, scream until he gave up and left. I sat on the hallway floor, leaned my head against the wall, and let the tears fall. Because however much he deserved it, however much I knew I was doing the right thing, it still hurt because he was my son, and I still remembered the little boy he once was. 2 days later, Rebecca appeared. This time I didn't even open the door. She stood outside yelling, "Joanna, open this door, we need to sort this out." I didn't respond. "You can't do this to us. We have nowhere to go." Silence. "I'm pregnant." I stopped. Pregnant. I went to the door. I leaned my hand against the wood. "How many months?" I asked, still without opening it. 2, she replied from the other side. "That's why we need help. We're having a baby, Joanna, your grandchild." My grandchild. I closed my eyes, felt that tug in my chest, that voice in my head saying, "You can't abandon your grandchild. You can't do this." But then I remembered. I remembered the glass of water, the humiliation, the 3 years of stolen money. And I thought, if I go back now, it will always be like this, always a reason, always an excuse, always me giving in. "Rebecca," I said, still with the door closed. "Congratulations on the pregnancy, but this changes nothing." "What do you mean it changes nothing? It's your grandchild and he'll have a father and a mother who work. You'll manage. You're a heartless old woman." "Maybe, but I'm the heartless old woman who won't be used anymore." She kicked the door. "You'll regret this. You'll never meet this baby." And she left. I stood there thinking, was I being cruel? Was I overreacting? But then I looked around my house, at the silence, at the peace I had achieved, and thought, no, I'm not overreacting. I'm just putting myself first for the first time in my life. and I went ahead with my plan. The ticket was bought. London to Lisbon, a direct flight in 10 days. I had sold some furniture, stored others at my brother's house, donated clothes, organized documents, and had spoken with a solicitor about the house. "Mrs. Joanna, are you sure you want to rent it out?" "I am. I'll be away for a while. I don't want the house empty, and if I want to come back, I'll give the tenant 30 days' notice and return." He nodded. "All right. I'll prepare the contract." I advertised the house. Within 2 days, a couple of teachers were interested, serious people. Good references, so I finalized with them. A 1-year contract. We signed it at the solicitor's office on a Tuesday morning. When I left there with the contract signed and the house rented, I felt something strange freedom. I had nothing holding me back here anymore. No obligations, no bills, no dependent son. I was free, and that was both terrifying and exhilarating. 3 days before the trip, I went to the bank for the last time. The manager greeted me with a smile. "Mrs. Joanna, how are you?" "Well, I've come to make an international transfer." He blinked, surprised. "International?" "Yes, I want to transfer almost the entire balance of my account to an account in Portugal." "Are you going to live there, ma'am?" "I am." He was silent for a few seconds. "May I ask, is it because of that situation with your son?" I gave a small smile. "Partly, but not entirely. It's for me because I deserve it." He smiled back. "You certainly do, ma'am." I made the transfer. I left just a little money in my UK account, enough for emergencies. The rest all went to Portugal. And when I left the bank, I felt lighter than ever. The night before the trip, Arthur came to dinner with me. He brought pizza. We ate in the living room, sitting on the floor, because I had already sold the table. "Are you sure about this, Joanna?" he asked, biting into a slice of pepperoni pizza. "I am." "And if you regret it, I'll come back." He laughed. "True. But what about Frederick?" I took a deep breath. "Frederick is an adult. He has a wife. He's going to have a child. He'll be fine." "But you won't see your grandchild born." "Perhaps not. But if I stay, I know what will happen. They'll come back. They'll use me again. They'll drain me until I have nothing left. And I don't want that." Arthur took my hand. "You know I support you, right?" "I know. And you know you can come back whenever you want." "I know." He hugged me. "You're the bravest woman I know." I smiled. I just got tired of being a coward. On the day of the trip, I woke up at 5 a.m. I showered, put on comfortable clothes, tied my hair back, looked at myself in the mirror, and saw a different woman. It wasn't the one who had water thrown in her face anymore, not the one who bowed her head. It was a woman who had made a decision, who had chosen herself, and who was about to start anew. I picked up my suitcase, closed the door of my house. Arthur drove me to the airport. On the way, we were silent. It wasn't a sad silence. It was just silence. When we arrived, he helped me with my suitcase. "Call me when you get there," he said. "I will. And if you need anything at all." "I know. Thanks, big brother." We hugged tightly for a long time. "Go on before I cry," he said, laughing. I laughed too and entered the airport. I checked in, checked my suitcase, went through security, and as I sat at the boarding gate waiting for my flight, my phone rang. It was a message from Frederick. "Mum, we need to talk. I know you're angry, but this is serious. Rebecca's not well. I need your help. Please call me." I looked at the message, and for the first time, I felt no guilt. I didn't feel like rushing to help. I only felt tired. I turned off my phone, and when they called for boarding, I stood up, picked up my carry-on, and got on the plane. I sat by the window, buckled my seatbelt, and as the plane took off, I looked down at London, at my city, at my life, and thought, goodbye. It wasn't a sad goodbye. It was a liberating goodbye. Because for the first time in 62 years, I was doing something just for myself, without thinking of anyone else, without sacrificing myself, without erasing myself. I was literally flying, and as the plane climbed through the clouds, I closed my eyes and smiled, because I knew that down below, Frederick was opening the bank account and discovering it was empty, completely empty. The joint account, his account, everything. Not a penny was left because I had transferred everything. Everything. And now he would have to learn to fend for himself just as I had to learn when his father left, just as I learned during 35 years of work, just as I was learning again at 62 years old. The difference was that now I was learning to live for myself, and that was priceless. When the plane stabilized and the flight attendant announced we could use electronic devices, I turned on my phone. There were 47 messages from Frederick, all desperate, all furious, all pleading. "Mom, what have you done? Where's the money? Did you take everything? How could you do this? We have nothing. You'll pay for this. I'll sue you. Please give at least some of it back. Mum, answer. Mum." I read them all one by one and felt no pity. I felt peace because that money was mine, always had been mine. And for the first time in my life, I had used it for myself. I deleted the messages, blocked the number, and turned off my phone again. I looked out the window. The sky was blue clear, infinite, just like my life now. I put on my headphones, played some music, and closed my eyes, thinking of Lisbon, of the cobbled streets, of the pastéis de nata, of the river Tagus, thinking of my grandmother and how proud she would be of me because I was doing what she did, starting over in a new land with courage, with dignity, and with all my money in my pocket. The plane landed in Lisbon at 7 a.m. As the wheels touched the ground, I felt my heart race, not from fear, but from emotion. I had done it. I had truly left England, left everything behind, and was there in Portugal, about to start anew. I collected my luggage, went through immigration. The agent looked at my Portuguese passport and smiled. "Welcome home," he said, and that touched me in a way I didn't expect. Home. I didn't know yet if Portugal would be my home, but for the first time in a long time, I felt I had the chance to find out. I left the airport. The air was cold, damp. It smelled different. I took a taxi, gave the address of the apartment I had rented online, a small studio in Alfama, Lisbon's oldest neighborhood. The driver was friendly, speaking with that Portuguese accent I only knew from films. "Are you English, ma'am?" "I am, but I have Portuguese citizenship." "Ah, that's good. Are you going to live here?" "I'm going to try." He smiled in the rearview mirror. "You'll like it. Lisbon is beautiful." And he was right. As the taxi wound through the narrow streets, I looked out the window enchanted. The houses with their tiles, the Portuguese pavement sidewalks, the yellow trams, everything seemed straight out of a postcard. And for the first time in months, I felt hope. The apartment was small but charming. A studio on the third floor of an old building, no lift, large windows overlooking a narrow street, high ceilings, wooden floors. It didn't have much. A bed, a small table, a tiny kitchen, a cramped bathroom, but it was mine, at least for now. I dropped my suitcase on the floor, sat on the bed and breathed. I was in Portugal, far from Frederick, far from Rebecca, far from all of it. I picked up my phone, thought about calling Arthur to let him know I had arrived safely, but first I checked my messages. There were over 100, all from Frederick. He had continued sending messages, even after I had blocked his number via WhatsApp, Telegram, even email, all desperate. "Mum, where are you? You've disappeared. No one knows where you've gone. I went to your house and there are strangers living there. Did you rent out the house? How could you do this? We're on the streets, Mum. Rebecca is crying all the time. I've lost my job. We have no money. Answer me." I read it all without haste and felt no guilt because I knew it was all lies. He hadn't lost his job. He just wanted to manipulate me. They weren't on the streets. They were at Rebecca's mother's house. And the money he claimed he didn't have was the money he had earned working, which he would now have to use responsibly, just like any adult does. I deleted all the messages, blocked the numbers again, and turned off my phone. I lay on the bed, looked at the ceiling, and slept. For the first time in months, I slept without a guilty conscience. My first few days in Lisbon were about adapting. I woke up early, went for walks, got to know the neighborhood. Alfama was a labyrinth of narrow streets, always uphill or downhill, houses clinging to each other, clothes hanging from windows, cats sleeping on steps. I fell in love. I found a bakery on the corner. The owner, Dona Fernanda, was a plump, friendly lady in her 70s. "Are you English?" she asked on the first day. "I am. I've just arrived." "Oh, that's good." There are many English people here. You'll feel right at home." And she was right. Every day I would stop by, buy bread, have a coffee chat a bit, and little by little I felt less alone. I also met the downstairs neighbor Christina, a Portuguese woman in her 50s, divorced a retired teacher. We bumped into each other on the stairs one Saturday morning. "You're the new English lady, aren't you?" she asked. "I'm Joanna." "Christina, welcome. If you need anything, just knock on my door." And I did. Not because I needed anything urgent, but because I realized I needed company. We started having coffee together. She showed me the best places to buy cheap things, taught me how to take the metro, took me to see the River Tagus, and little by little I started building a new life. After a month, I was more adapted. I had opened an account at a Portuguese bank, obtained a health card, enrolled in some activities at the local community center, and had started working nothing too elaborate. I gave English lessons to Portuguese people who wanted to better understand the British accent. It was funny. They found it difficult, and I found it amusing too. I started making sweets to sell. Shortbread Bakewell tarts, Victoria sponge. The Portuguese loved them. Christina helped me advertise. We sold them at the neighborhood market on Sundays. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was mine earned with my effort, and that was worth more than any pension. 2 months after arriving in Portugal, I received a new message from Arthur. "Sis Frederick showed up here again. Now he's saying he's going to sue you that you stole his money. I sent him away. But be careful." I sighed. I sent a message back. "Let him sue. He has no case. That money was mine." Arthur replied instantly. "I know, sis, just warning you. Stay there and be happy." I smiled. At least one person understood. 3 months after my arrival, I received an email. It was from Rebecca. The subject line read, "Please read." I hesitated. I thought about deleting it without opening, but curiosity won. I opened it. "Joanna, I know you don't want to talk to me. I know I was horrible to you, that I disrespected you, that I treated you badly. And I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need you to know the truth. Frederick left me. When he found out you had left, that you had emptied the account, that you had rented out the house, he completely freaked out. He blamed me, said it was my fault, that if I hadn't nagged him, you wouldn't have left, that I had ruined everything. And then he started drinking, going out, disappearing for days, until one day he just didn't come back. He sent me a message saying he couldn't take it anymore, that he was going to start over somewhere else, and blocked me. I'm alone. Joanna, 7 months pregnant, penniless, living with my mom who keeps asking me for money. I'm not asking for money, nor for you to come back. I just wanted you to know, because deep down I think you were right about him. Rebecca. I read the email 3 times and felt no pity. I felt relief. Relief for having left when I did, for not being there to be blamed, for not being there to be drained again. I closed the email and didn't reply because I had nothing to say. Rebecca had made her choices just as I had made mine, and now each of us had to deal with the consequences. 6 months after my arrival in Portugal, I was completely adapted. I had expanded my sweets business. Now I sold at 3 different markets. I had even managed to supply a cafe in Chiado. I had made friends. Christina became my best friend. We traveled together on weekends. I explored Porto, discovered the Algarve, and for the first time in decades, I felt truly happy. Not that superficial happiness, not that everything's fine because it has to be happiness, but a real deep, true happiness. I woke up in the morning and smiled because the day was mine, because I could do what I wanted, because no one would demand anything from me, no one would use me, no one would diminish me. I was free, and that was priceless. 1 year after my arrival in Portugal, I received a letter. It was from England, from a solicitor's office. My heart raced. I opened it. It was a notification. Frederick was suing me. He wanted me to return the money I had stolen from him. I laughed because it was so absurd it could only be funny. I showed the letter to Christina. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "Nothing. He has no case. That money was mine from my pension. He was using it without authorization." "But what if the judge will dismiss it because there's no crime, nothing." And that's exactly what happened. 2 months later, I received another letter from the same solicitor stating that the case had been dismissed due to lack of evidence. Frederick had lost again. 18 months after my departure, I received a message. It was from an unknown number, an English one. I opened it. It was a photo of a tiny baby newborn, eyes closed, and underneath a message. "This is Michael, your grandson. He was born last week. Thought you'd like to know. Rebecca." I looked at the photo and felt. I felt everything. The pain, the longing, the desire to meet him. But I also felt something else. Peace, because I knew that if I went back, if I gave in, everything would go back to how it was, and I couldn't let that happen. So I saved the photo and replied, "Congratulations, he's beautiful, take good care of him." And that was all. Rebecca didn't reply, and I didn't expect her to. Today, 2 years after leaving England, I wake up every day in my home in Alfama. It's no longer the small studio. Now it's a 1-bedroom apartment with a view of the River Tagus. I bought it with my money from my work. I have my routine. I wake up early, have coffee at Donna Fernanda's bakery. I prepare my sweets, go to the market, chat with Christina, travel on weekends, and I'm truly happy. Sometimes I think of Frederick, of Michael, of how things would be if they were different, but then I remember that things are exactly as they had to be because I chose myself, and that was the best choice I ever made in my life. Today, when I look in the mirror, I no longer see that wet, humiliated woman sitting in the Easter Sunday chair. I see a strong, courageous, free woman. I see the Joanna I always wanted to be, and that's worth more than any grandchild, any son, any family. Because the family I built here with Christina, with Donna Fernanda, with my clients, with this city, respects me, sees me, values me. And in the end, that's what matters, not blood, not obligation, but respect. And I will never accept less than that again. Never again. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. And tell me, have you ever had to choose between family and yourself? How was it? Leave it in the comments. We'll see you in the next video.